the Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor John Kweku-Mensah Mauto, my lords of the Superior Court of Judicature who are with me here, members of the University Council, members of Convocation, members of the UPSA community, invited guests, friends from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the warm welcome. It is a privilege to be invited to be a discussant in the highly esteemed pre-May Day lecture series of the Institute of Work, Employment and Society of the University of Professional Studies. In the present discussion, I intend to place a mirror between the challenges, tensions, push and pull factors that weaken productivity on one hand, and communication, law, ethics, and technology are strong pillars upon which increased productivity can be built on the other hand. It is appreciated that the effectiveness of any person or institution always starts with a clarity of their vision and ability to set goals and achieve those goals. So kindly allow me to start with a look at the vision statement of IWES. Your stated vision is to be a world-class institution for the advancement of knowledge through policy-guided research, training, and advocacy aimed at developing human resources everywhere. As can be seen from the above vision statement, vision expresses the desired results from time spent on any particular area of the life of an individual or institution. It is invariably derived from the mental image that expresses what the individual or institution wants to use their time and efforts to become. A necessary partner of any vision statement is a mission statement. The mission statement, unlike the vision statement, which expresses a picture or image, focuses on activities. Mission statements, therefore, articulate the umbrella and strategic activities that an individual or institution believes will lead to achieving the desired images in the vision statement. So in the case of IWES, your mission is expressed in these words: to carry activities that would promote knowledge through research, training, consultancy, and advocacy services focused on the development of human resources, governmental and non-governmental organizations, and the society at large. This is done through conducting research that reflects current issues on work, employment, and social issues relevant for practitioners, organizing fora for discourse and debate as a platform for experts to share knowledge and disseminate information, providing cutting-edge education, training, and capacity development based on research insight, engaging with business and other stakeholders in order to track real workplace issues that require attention. And finally, documenting and acting as a resource center for collecting, storing, and disseminating information on work, employment, and society. As part of your mission, you say that the Work and Employment Division of the Institute will produce high-quality data and rigorously research on data that influence public policies and organizational context. You also say that this division hopes to define what, quote, decent work, unquote, is, focusing on the content and context within which they are performed. It will also encapsulate the importance of productivity and skills needed for high productivity. Reviewing these vision and mission statements present an exciting view of the work of the Institute and what stakeholders can expect from your work. The first source of tension for any institution, however, rises after the beautiful expression of their vision and mission statement. It is the salient question of how the Institute can ensure that the activities outlined in the written vision and mission statements are adhered to by the teams within the institution. A second source of tension arises from how one can measure the achievement and success of the indicators within the vision. Simply put, what are the signposts, goalposts, and indices of success, and how are they to be achieved realistically? Enter the concept of productivity. The Oxford Dictionary defines it as, quote, the effectiveness of productive effort, especially in industry, measured in terms of the rate of output per unit of input. In the Encyclopedia of Business and Finance, productivity is described as efficiency of production of goods or services expressed by some measure. It's also described as the ability to achieve significant results over a target period of time. Productivity comes from the ability to translate the nice image and task lines into real and measurable success. For one to identify whether you have been productive or not, therefore, there must be measurement from indices set at the beginning of a venture. Because of this, goal setting to achieve elements of vision can be said to be effective only if the goal setting process enables calculation and measurability of acceptably quantifiable results. So having identified the desired vision and mission activities expected to lead to the desired vision, one must set goals that match up to crisp and clear measurable indicators that will confirm whether the output of activities is low, average, or high. The more indicators within the vision that are achieved, the higher the productivity. The fewer the indicators, the lower the productivity. But as intellectually stimulating as all of the above theoretically sound statements are, reality educates that there is real tension in the journey between vision and productivity. That tension arises because translating desire into reality through effective work plans that will bring in the tangible, measurable results is a process that can be frustrated by all sorts of risk factors. These risk factors may be human, mechanical, or the failure of processes that were designed to assist achievement, but failed because of unexpected circumstances. My view, which I bring to the discussion of your esteemed institute today, is that for workplaces to be distinctively productive and to avoid or reduce the inevitable risk factors, the crisp and discernible elements in the vision of any organization must be reiterated consistently and clearly for all teams and kept at the foreview of all stakeholders. Vision and mission statements must go beyond being documents that are assumed to be read. They must be translated into bite-sized line items and communicated actively on a constant basis through all media of communication in the workplace. I think it is realistic to appreciate that when we seek a job or position in a workplace, the motivation for applying to work in that place hardly has anything to do with the vision, mission, and identifiable strategic task lines of the place. We expect to be given orientation and directions on how to do the particular job we are to execute. And we expect that as we play our roles in the manner that we have been oriented, the organization will be satisfied with our output. When we receive feedback that the organization is not meeting its productivity targets, the usual first thought is not to identify how we individually could have caused it, but to presuppose that someone in leadership will respond to the situation. What if we are the one in leadership? I believe that this salient question is part of the provocation for the discussions that today's theme is supposed to raise. Before attempting to answer that underlying query, I wish to also observe that the challenge of aligning any team member's personal reasons for being at work with the institution's vision, mission, and productivity indices is heightened by the diversities of expertise, socializations, and personal goals of individual team members within any workplace. As is evident, diversities clash with coherence, and incoherence decreases the capacity to achieve or to be productive. So, Mr. Provisi, in this contribution, I wish to propose 4 tools for consideration by the discussions of the Institute. The first tool is effective communication. The second is law and regulation. The third is technology. An important aspect of the consideration of these 3 tools, however, is the fact that without institutional ethical values applied to the engagement of these or any other tool for increasing productivity, they will not work as well as they are supposed to. It is my view that each of these 3 tools easily play effective roles in harmonizing diverse expertise, and the 4th tool is ethical values. They play effective roles in harmonizing diverse expertise, goals, and mindset in the quest for a desired organizational vision and the achievement of that vision through higher rates of productivity. But each of these tools must also compel the engaging of ethical values to permeate their operation. The need for clear communication in the workplace. Like Kwekwanansi's stories, there is an anecdote that appears in various models from different sources of storytelling. My favorite version of this story comes from a fictional character called Mma Precious Ramuche, who is the protagonist in a series of books authored by a good storyteller called Alexander McCall Smith. Mma Ramuche is introduced as the first female private investigator in Botswana, who, in a bid to create a viable business, set up the #1 ladies detective agency. If you haven't read it, I hope you have watched the series. In one of her career adventures, she is asked to investigate why people kept dying in a particular ward in the hospital. The hospital administrators were at their wits' end on how to stop the deaths, because a careful watch of all persons who visited the intensive care unit revealed that no strangers were entering the ward. The deaths also occurred on a particular day of the week. After careful investigations, Mma Precious unraveled the mystery. The day of the accident was the day when the regular cleaner took time off. The substitute cleaner had no idea that there was a correlation between the device hooked on the patient in that bed and the electrical sockets that powered the device. So she would happily walk into the ward, unplug the device, plug in her vacuum cleaner, and vacuum clean thoroughly. She did her work to the best of her ability and in accordance with orientation. The only difficulty was that by the time her work was finished, the patient had been fatally affected by the loss of flow from the hooked device. They died soon after. How could one team member's good work destroy the significant output of the entire organization? The answer is simple, even if intriguing. Lack of clear communication about the peculiar nature of that ward, the machines in that ward, the bed and the patients in it, and the presumption that because that team member's work does not feed into the carefully outlined goals and tasks that determine the productivity indices of the institution, they do not need orientation in the specialized nature of the institution. This is a difficult story that made interesting reading, but it clarifies that in any workplace, it is not only the code specialist who affects the output. Everyone counts. And lack of communication of signposts, goalposts, and indices of success, and a constant flow of why things are what they are, can affect effectiveness in the most significant way. My view is that in any arena where persons with diverse expertise, orientations, and socializations are required to achieve identified outputs, there can never be, quote, too much information, unquote, regarding what those outputs are and the issues that lead to the outputs. Transparency, clarity, and continuity of engagement and collaborations are always critical ethical values that must be harnessed to ensure productivity, because any chain is as strong as its weakest link. Communication increases understanding, and understanding increases cooperation and collaboration. Communication increases learning, and learning increases capacity to achieve. It does not matter that the communication is with regard to the most technical subject, so long as it is presented in a clear, simple, and bite-sized manner. No, quote, technical subject, unquote, need be considered as complicated for any member of a team in an institution. And I'd just like to share here something that I found very useful when I was a trial judge. Usually, people who come to court are emotionally stirred up. They are stirred up by their pain. They are stirred up by the whole court process. So when a person has to sit in the witness box, their emotion is almost palpable. However, because of the technical nature of the legal hearing, I, as the person who is managing the court, realize that if I don't communicate to this person that I am not so interested in your emotion, I am interested in your words. And that at that time in the High Court, there were two courts above me, the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. And I'll tell the witness that, you know, I am the one who is going to create this record. This record will be done by myself as a single judge. But if at the end of the trial, you are not happy with my judgment and you appeal, 3 judges will sit on it. And if you are not happy with the judgment of the Court of Appeal and you go to the Supreme Court, 5 judges will sit on it. And if there's a need for review, 7 judges will sit on it. So you may just find that the record you're about to give today may be used by as many as 10 judges before this matter is finally put to bed. And invariably, that information calms the person down. They realize that what they're about to do has more to do with recollecting everything that is needed to ensure that they win their case than telling the judge that they are very upset. So I bring in this to show that even though it's a matter of record management, it is also an important point to communicate to the witness so that the witness does their best, so that at the end of the day, as a judge, you have the best material to ensure that you have given substantial justice. In my profession of law, it is no secret that the persons that can teach any junior lawyer the most about practical organization of briefs and case management include the clerks in a firm or registry. They know practical factors such as the location of filing points and the practical linkages in the court system. Transparency in communication, engagement, and collaboration are therefore critical ethical values for increasing productivity for all stakeholders. This now leads me to law, legality, and regulation. Law and regulation carry compelling innate ability, except for the person who refuses to or is unable to comply at a given time. Law allows for harmonization of behavior. It is law and regulation that sets working conditions, and through that, they direct behavior of all persons within an institution, or they must. What is interesting about law and regulation is that often citizens do not know how deeply our everyday lives are dictated by law and regulation. Even the character of the most mundane resources, such as how wide a road should be, how birth should be registered, and what constitutes a valid marriage or a void contract, are dictated by law. We engage in transactions all the time without much conscious attention to conscious attention to law. And yet, when any situation goes wrong, it is law that is used to settle rights and obligations. In this wise, Law and regulation provide crisp external indicators to direct diverse personal goals into harmonious conduct, and harmonious conduct increases productivity for the achievement of organizational goals. Law and regulation motivate and mobilize standards of behavior that produce desired organizational culture. They also reduce incoherence and the dysfunction that may arise from diverse outlooks from the unique individuality of team members. It is, however, to be noted that the meeting point between law, regulation, and confidence in the working environment lies in the assurance of fairness in the regulatory environment of any working space. In order to motivate voluntary compliance, therefore, it is critical to bear in mind the need to incorporate the ethical value of fairness as a standard in any regulatory system. How is fairness achieved? The National Model on Creation of Law is a good model to use to discuss the subject of fairness. Article 1251 of the 1992 Constitution provides, and I quote, "Justice emanates from the people and shall be administered in the name of the Republic by the judiciary, which shall be independent and subject only to this Constitution," unquote. This simple statement is extremely pregnant. What it means is that what is acceptable as just and indicative of justice emanates from the people. Justice is not imposed, but flows out. And justice is not a concept in philosophy. It is the identifiable product of lawmaking. In practical terms, law in this country is never made by those who administer it, but by everyone who uses it. It is created by those it directs before it begins to direct its creators. Let me further explain. The laws of Ghana are identified in Article 11 of the 1992 Constitution. It reads, "The laws of Ghana shall comprise A, this Constitution, B, enactments made by or under the authority of the Parliament established by this Constitution, C, any orders, rules, and regulations made by any person or authority under a power conferred by this Constitution, D, the existing law, and E, the common law. 2. The common law of Ghana shall comprise the rules of law generally known as the common law, the rules generally known as the doctrines of equity, and the rules of customary law, including those determined by the Superior Court of Judicature. 3. For the purposes of this article, customary law means the rules of law which by custom are applicable to particular communities in Ghana. 2.4. The existing law shall, except as otherwise provided in Clause 1 of this article, comprise the written and unwritten laws of Ghana as they existed immediately before the coming into force of this Constitution, and any act, decree, law, or statutory instrument issued or made before that date, which is to come into force on or after that date. 5. Subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the existing law shall not be affected by the coming into force of this Constitution. 6. The existing law shall be construed with any modifications, adaptations, qualifications, and exceptions necessary to bring it into conformity with the provisions of this Constitution, or otherwise to give effect to, or enable effect to be given to, any changes affected by this Constitution. End of quotes. In priority of power and compelling force, therefore, law in Ghana starts with the Constitution at the head. Then it moves to legislation passed by Parliament on the second tier. Third in line of priority of law is orders, rules, and regulations made by a person with power conferred by the Constitution. In fourth order of strength is a law that was existing before the 1992 Constitution. The fifth in the ladder of strength is the common law of Ghana. What is notable about the common law of Ghana is that it incorporates all the customary laws of every ethnic group, whether written or unwritten, as they existed before the coming into force of the 1992 Constitution. Law in Ghana, therefore, is what the people create for themselves as law. Whether it is the constitution written for us by representatives of the Constituent Assembly, or laws written by a parliament of representatives who have been voted for by the constituencies that are themselves created by law, or regulations of local assemblies or Kashmir law. It is always the people who use the law who decide what is law. It is only when law is shaped by those who are guided by it that those who administer it, in this case, the judiciary and the various tribunals created by law, can interpret and apply it to its stakeholders. This is what infuses fairness into law and makes law synonymous with justice. This distribution of the power of law allows a sense of fairness to permeate community living, so that those who are affected by law embrace it, work with it, and submit to it. It also allows harmonization of diverse views and harnessing of different outlooks for the achievement of common goals. Fairness as an ethical value in the workplace is therefore a product of known and accepted regulation. When regulation is made up of rules that stakeholders are aware of and contribute to the making of, their submission to the rules produce a culture that is orderly, predictable, and harmonious among diverse people. This culture can then be carefully calibrated and guided through the upgrading of law and regulation in order to produce higher standards of conduct. Through this, teams can be led towards ever-increasing standards of output that they find acceptable themselves. It is within this context that this paper suggests that efforts must be made in workplaces to produce clear records of how stakeholders expect the workplace to be regulated for maximum productivity. And these clear regulatory lines should be created from consensus by as many stakeholders as possible. The more stakeholders own regulation, the easier it is for peer-to-peer reminder of best practices to be shared, leading to strong organizational cultures built on the accepted regulation. I'll now move to technology. Undoubtedly, market consensus is that technology is an outstanding servant for increased productivity. I believe that anyone who has been able to pay their water bill, electricity bill, cable network bill, and send money electronically without expending transport costs, travel time, and energy moving to various locations around the city will attest to this. Technology allows efficiency, speed, and critical records to be captured easily. Just look at your Google footprints for the last month, and you'll be startled by how the simple carrying of your phone with you can tell everyone where you have walked, sat, and been in that period of time, including those you have been with. And the story is told about 4 people who were charged with conspiracy to commit murder. And all of them had very tight alibis. The case could not have been cracked, but for the fact that their phones were taken from them. And the phones, their footprints, electronic footprints, digital footprints, virtual footprints, show that all 4 of them were where they were supposed to have committed the crime. So, as you carry your phone along, it's keeping your records. I had a particularly interesting experience about 10 years ago that woke me up to the outstanding nature of technology. I had visited a family member in a university in Massachusetts and was sitting in her 3rd floor room chatting with her. Suddenly, she looked at her phone and informed me that her laundry that was being done in one of several washing machines in the basement was finished. How do you know, was my question. She showed me an app on her phone. It provided information on the washing machines in the basement. From the app, she could tell that the particular machine her things were in had finished washing. No one needed to keep walking up and down from third floor to basement to check on washing because of the technology that had been designed to respond to that simple process. A second experience. Recently, I went looking for a friend who was staying with a host in a suburb in Accra. I tried to locate the place with Google Maps. It was still difficult to locate the house. I called her host, who was still at work, and he informed me that he was going to track my car on Google. While sitting in his office, he told me that he could see me in my car. He could see my car. He then set about directing my car to the house. He was talking with me on phone. He could see me because every movement of the car was visible to him through the internet. Technology is a great servant. It has served humanity in increasing measure for more than a century. As is widely known, the technology used for telephony was patented in 1876. Television technology was successfully demonstrated by 21-year-old Philo Taylor Farnsworth in 1927. And the fundamental theoretical work on information theory was also developed in the 1920s. Computer science brought exponential growth in these building blocks from the 1950s. Interconnectivity started to be utilized in 1986, and the architecture of the regulatory mechanisms, such as orderly distributions of domain name systems, led to commercial internet systems from 1989 in the USA and Australia. By 1990, work had been done to establish the World Wide Web, which is the world system that allows all of these technologies to converge and be distributed. All of this information is easily accessed with a search for the history of the internet, demonstrating the monumental value of search engines to knowledge, learning, and capacity building. So one of my recommended tools for higher productivity is easily the engagement of technology. But I must immediately introduce a caveat or certain ethical considerations if workplaces are to efficiently utilize technology to promote productivity. My experience in leading the development of e-justice has shown me that harnessing technology in the workplace is not as easy as may be supposed when one is looking in from the outside. Let me illustrate with the e-justice system that a court user in the 52 Law Court complex in Accra is likely to find. The pillars of any efficient e-justice delivery system are e-filing, e-service, e-docket management, e-case distribution, virtual or e-hearings, and e-execution of judgments. In order to do all these efficiently, there must be an efficient national electronic payment system, which allows court users to file documents from wherever they are. The documents should be received electronically for e-dockets to be created and accessed by judges, registrars, and court users. The documents must be capable of being served on court users electronically. Court users should be able to log into the virtual courtroom from wherever they are and be able to communicate with the managers of the court system. Currently, though e-filing is easy because the national quote-unquote MOMO system is functioning well, the national electronic capture of telephone numbers is still a work in progress. And so the system has to make room for that infrastructure to be complete for e-service to be an everyday occurrence. Because access to justice is a constitutionally guaranteed right, e-service can only be compelled when there's satisfaction that the vast majority of adults have facilities such as emails to receive court documentation. We will therefore see that when it comes to the use of technology, no institution is an island. Efficient deployment of technology requires a careful inclusion of every stakeholder who must use your service, and every process must be governed by the rules of the industry. I'd like us to take a minute to look carefully at our laptops, tablets, and our phones. I want you to please look at your phone right now, those of us with smartphones. You will see that it is covered by icons that allow us into the use of the device. It is said that for one smartphone to be created, no fewer than 50,000 patents on relevant technologies are needed by the producer. Some of these technologies allow the use of the screen, some allow for information to be moved, some allow for information to be created, and some allow for information to be stored. Some of the technologies allow us to talk to each other, and some of them allow us to see each other. The right to use each of these technologies is protected by licenses given to the innovators who have developed them. And to be able to use them effectively, one must be able to harness resources for the licenses and the knowledge required. This is the extent of harmony needed to create and manage any technology. Copyright ownership in various software, trademark ownership in icons used in devices, and patent holders in all the relevant technologies must be respected and harnessed seamlessly and effectively for the production of any form of technology that increases productivity. Without active collaboration, cooperation, studying, sharing, and synchronization of efforts with all providers who must assist with the smooth transmission of digital technology, what ought to be a comforting tool for doing business can end up being a journey in frustration. So the recommendation of using technology in any institution comes with a caution. Technology offered for the work of an organization must be carefully examined for efficiency, sustainability, and ease of use. Strong teams must be built to sustain the system and aid culture change when technology is introduced in any system. There are always people ready to sell software, but you must know whether it is worth buying it. There must be sharing with co-producers of the technology and a constant stream of communication with users and stakeholders. This calls for the ethics of diligence, attention to detail, commitment to change, and commitment to constant learning. It is this careful design and deployment of relevant technology, supported by strong institutional ethical cooperation and support, that can allow for increased productivity. In conclusion, Mr. Pro Vice Chancellor, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, harnessing good work ethics for higher productivity will always require the multi-pronged approaches needed for success in any life endeavor. Vision is not enough. Mission statements are not enough. Goals per se are not enough. Strong tools such as clear communication, a culture of accepted regulation, and efficient use of technology can be engaged to assist in this journey. It is my hope that these thoughts can contribute to the work of IWES. Thank you very much for the invitation, and God bless the institution.